Hi, welcome to Black Rabbit Studios during Portland Open Studios. This is my studio, and it's in the basement of my house. And I do mainly encaustic painting, and I've been doing it for probably about the last 13 years or so. So the person that I took class from was Linda Robertson. And you can find her for classes, since I don't teach. You can find her for classes at embracingencaustic.com. I'm going to show you really quick kind of what encaustic entails, which is beeswax, and I get it in this form. It's ground up and it's been bleached out so that it takes the pigments well. And you mix that with the damar, which is sap off a damar tree, so it has like bark and stuff particles. So I heat that stuff up, melt it together, and then I strain it out to get all the bark and stuff out, and then I can add pigments to make the different colors. And then here on the griddles I have encaustic that's been made up with the colors, and you can see it's hot liquid form, and this is just clear, which is what I use for the base. So this is just the beeswax and the damar resin mixed together, and then I slide that on there, brush it on, and then I take a torch and heat it up so it adheres to the layer below. So on my work, I do more abstract work and build up layers and take layers away and use the torch as my paint brushes. And that's why I have so many different torches. Each torch is a different flame, so it's like a different brush. So I'll take you on a little tour of the studio to see some of the finished products. And then we'll come back and I'll do some demos here and show you some more of the tools and stuff. So this is one of my first series where I built up layers and layers and then carved back into it. This one has like 150 layers or so. I did quite a few of these in this series, but it consumed so much wax that I kind of stopped doing it. And at the same time, I was trimming off the sides, and I was thinking of ways of using this, and that's when I started the Stratum series. So this is like one of the first ones I did, where I took this and melted it into the panel. And then from there, I decided to start building up layers. And so I just build up layers in blocks and then cut them and then use those sideways. So I'll show you some finished products over here. Here's one that's been cut apart so you can see the different layers. So these are the Stratum series, and it has this this piece that sticks out, and that's that piece I was showing you, where I take some more encaustic that's been layered up and then cut, and then embed it sideways into the piece. And then I use a torch on these, like this one. I use a torch to make the waves. And then this is my newer series, the Journey series. And this one is where I actually build up the layers in the center here. And then once I build up the layers I want, I cut into it. And then with the torch, I bring up the colors from underneath and move it around. Here's some more of the Journey series. As I put the layers down, I I keep track of them. I'll show you on a sheet so that I know the different colors I have down already. The black and white ones are more of the Stratum series, and you can find a lot of these on my website at carlwkaiser.com. And I'm adding more all the time, but you can find it right on the website. You can always ask, you can always email me too if you see something in it you like or something. So the black and the white pigments, the titanium white, with the right amount of heat from the heat gun, will break up the pigments and give you these really cool little patterns of, looks like little bubbles. You can see more of it like in this one here. And it does it not just to the black pigments, but to any of the pigments. The blues, it does a really nice job to too. And then this is my spin series. And this is where I put layers down in patchwork, and then I come back with the torch and go back into it and pull colors up from underneath. So you can see I use a lot of color. I do black and white ones too, but I do quite a bit of color. And then this is the tree series, and this is my more figurative work. And this is where I actually came up with the spin series, was from doing the bark on these, because I had black and caustic underneath the white, and then with the torch I'd bring up the colors from underneath. So like this one here, this tree back here is actually wood burned onto the panel with oil paint on top of that, and then clear, multiple layers of clear and caustic on top of that, and then this is painted on with more encaustic. This one here, these trees back here are actually all encaustic, and so I had to put like 20 layers on top of that before I could start laying down more encaustic on top, so you could give it kind of that depth feeling. These are some more of the smaller trees. You can find some of these on the website too. And then this one here, I did a series of these too, where I build up layers and then carve back into, and you can kind of see it's kind of rounded. Since people ask too what I do with the scraps, because I do get lots of scraps. Sometimes I make balls out of them. Sometimes I embed the balls into a piece. Sometimes I use, these are like little pieces that I put together, use it for a horizon line. So I've used it for several different things. I'll show you later some bowls I made out of scraps that I melted down. And then I also do acrylic work. And so this is, these back here on this back wall are just acrylic. And I did those, I started going back, I originally did acrylic before I did encaustic. And a few years back, I was invited to participate in the Recycled Rainwater project. And so I went back and started making some more acrylic paintings. And I've done that for the last several years. So this is what I have right now that are left. But I'll be painting more because I've really enjoyed going back and rediscovering acrylic. This is the only one that's encaustic back here. And this one, you can see the clouds are a little bit different, and I used an iron to get this effect. So the iron can be kind of a cool tool to use too for different effects.
Somebody asked if your acrylic paintings are on your website.
Yes, they are. My acrylic paintings are on my website. This is some more scraps, and sometimes I melt them down and make bowls out of them. There's another big bowl. So yeah, and I can reuse this for paintings too if I want. So I'll show you. Oh yes, and all these brushes I can reuse. I don't have to clean out my brushes. I can just reheat them and reuse them. So I just kind of leave them out. So when I come to that color, I can come back with different sizes brushes, depending on what I'm doing. And I've mainly just used those chip brushes. They work pretty good for what I do. So here, this is a piece that I build up layers, and if you look over here, here's a big long strip of it, and you can see where I've kept track of all the layers. So all these layers are in this, and it's just painted on one layer at a time, heated with the torch, and then another layer over and over again. So there's 100 layers, I think, on that one. So then, like this is what I do is once I cut it apart, I take a torch.
How many paint pots do you have on your work table over here?
A lot. I don't know. So I'll take this and kind of heat it up. You know, I'll heat the base up, and I drew a line here so I know where to put it. And then I start with just kind of pressing it down. And then I'm going to grab some encaustic paint, and I'm also going to grab some glasses. Because
Was that hot when you touched it? Somebody asked.
The top wasn't hot, the bottom was, yeah. So then I'll take some encaustic, warmed up, heated up, and this is I keep this at about 200 degrees. And then I put it along here like a weld. And then I'll take a smaller torch, like this one here. And I'll use that new encaustic that I just put down and kind of weld it to it. Let it cool.
Do you burn yourself on occasion?
Knock on wood, I haven't.
I would.
So anyhow, so then I'll keep doing that, and I'll do more and more layers like that until I get it really solid. And then I come back and trim these sides, and then I can start painting on other colors and playing with the torch and moving it around.
Somebody wants to know, do you make your own medium or buy pre-made?
Yes, I make my own. So this is all, I got like a 50-pound box of wax down here, and then I buy the more like that. So yeah, and then I have my own pigments. So that's pretty much for the Stratum series, what I do. Then for the Journey series, I have this where these layers are built up here, and these are on here. And then what I'm going to do is cut a line down the middle. So I'm going to measure, just a sec, I'm going to get some white encaustic here.
Ginger is asking how many layers, maybe clear on the base.
Oh, it kind of depends. Each panel's a little bit different just because the bubbles that come up through the wood. So as I'm putting them down, I usually put at least 6 layers of clear down. So, and that usually the bubbles kind of stop. I don't use encaustic gesso because of the torches, because it'll pull up the encaustic gesso if you get the torch, if it get too hot. So here I'll put this layer down real quick.
Do you ever flip the panel and keep a high horizon line on your straps?
I have, not very often, but I have. So I'm going to clean this up real quick. So these are all hot. They're on the stove. So I'll probably burn myself today after saying that I don't burn myself. So I'm cutting this off just so I can get a good measurement.
Okay, I think we're back. So somebody asked about where he buys his wax. He gets it from Swans. Is it called Swans Candle? No.
Yeah.
Swans Candles, SWAN, and they will ship. They're in Washington, up by...
almost to Olympia.
Yeah.
So here I'm cutting a line down, and I'm going to go through, grab a couple more tools here. So these are for making dentures actually, but they're really nice. They're stainless steel so they don't break. I'm just going to cut down through these layers. So I know that orange is right there, so the yellow is going to be the bottom where I want to go to. Okay, grab one more tool, widen this out just a little bit. So these are pottery loop tools that potters use. So right now, since I just put that warm white encaustic on top, it's making it pretty easy to carve. If you leave it around for a little while, you got to heat it back up with the torch because it gets pretty hard and it can get brittle. The Damar makes the wax a higher melting temperature. If it's just pure beeswax you're working with, the melting temperature is too low and you get a warm day and it melt your painting off the wall. So the reason we put the Damar in is it raises the melting temperature of the wax and also makes it harder.
What is the name of this series again?
This is the Journey series. So here, I'm going to take a small torch again and start moving this wax around a little bit. And so, use a little bit different flame. So I'll just keep playing with that and then flip around, do the bottom side, come back and try to get some more of the orange. And I'll just keep playing with it until I get to the point where I really like it. So that's kind of the way I do the Journey series. And then the Spin series is, so here's one that's going to be a spin. So there's like 6 layers of clear, like 3 layers of white, 2 layers of yellow, and then I start putting blocks of color down, kind of like a patchwork. So this one has all those layers, and then it has patchwork of color, and then a little bit of white on top of that, and then another patchwork of colors. And I usually, when I put the first layer of colors down, I take a picture of it with my phone so that I know the pattern I have, and I also write down, so I know, like underneath this here I have dark blue, just so I kind of know where I'm at. And then I take a torch, and let's see, I'll try this one. And I'm just going to work my way, and the reason I call it spin series is because I kind of keep spinning. So once I hit the yellow, I know I'm down to the bottom. So that flame was a little too big. So I'm going to go back with this a little bit smaller flame here. And I just kind of keep working around. I gotta let them cool, otherwise they run into each other, so I kind of work from the outer edges. So yeah, and I just keep working that until I get to the point where I like it. So here's some of the other tools I use. Different size loop tools. This is the big torch I use for bigger pieces. And I guess that's about it. You can go to my website, carlwkaiser.com, and find my work there. You can sign up for my mailing list. And also I have work at the Real Sales Gallery at the Portland Art Museum, downtown Portland, and at River Sea Gallery in Astoria carries my work. Next artist up for Portland Open Studios is Jennifer Mercedes. Be sure and turn into her live feed and watch her in her studio. Thank you very much for coming along. Talk to you later.